You've been taught to respond, to defend yourself when attacked, to argue when criticized, to fix misunderstandings immediately, and that reflex has cost you more than you know, because the moment you react, you've already lost something. Control, composure, the position of power you didn't even realize you held by staying silent. Most people don't understand this. They think silence is weakness, that not responding means you're hurt, confused, or defeated. They're wrong. Silence is the most sophisticated form of control you possess, and when you learn to weaponize it, everything changes. Not reacting isn't about being passive. It's about being strategic. It's about understanding that your attention, your emotional energy, your words, they're all currency. And right now, you're giving them away for free. Every time someone baits you and you bite, you've handed them exactly what they wanted. Proof that they can affect you. Proof that they matter enough to disrupt your state. That's the game most people don't see. They think the conflict is about the topic at hand, the insult, the accusation, the misunderstanding. It's not. The real battle is over who controls the emotional frame, and the person who reacts first loses that battle every single time. Think about the last argument you had. The last time someone said something that made your blood pressure rise. You probably felt justified in your response. You had facts, logic, the moral high ground even. And yet, something still felt off afterward, didn't it? That feeling was the recognition, deep down, that you gave more than you needed to, that you could have held your position without spending any energy at all. Because here's what they don't tell you about human psychology. People aren't trying to understand you when they provoke you. They're trying to destabilize you. It's not about being right. It's about making you wrong, making you emotional, making you smaller. And your reaction is the confirmation they're looking for. When you stop giving them that confirmation, something interesting happens. The dynamic shifts. They lose their leverage, and suddenly, the power they thought they had evaporates. This is what people mean when they say, "Don't feed the trolls." But it's deeper than internet advice. It applies to your coworker who makes passive-aggressive comments, your family member who knows exactly which buttons to push, the friend who always needs to one-up your problems. They're all running the same program. Provoke, wait for reaction, feed off the energy. You've been conditioned to believe that not responding is the same as accepting disrespect, that silence equals agreement. But that's the conditioning talking. That's your ego convincing you that your reputation depends on correcting every wrong impression, defending every attack, clarifying every misunderstanding. Your ego is lying to you. Most of the time, people aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are. That comment that bothered you for 3 days, they forgot about it in 3 minutes. Your reaction is what makes it real. Your emotional investment is what gives it weight. When you remove your reaction from the equation, you remove the fuel. The fire dies on its own. This doesn't mean you become a doormat. It means you become selective, intentional. You stop operating from a place of reflex and start operating from a place of choice. There's a difference between responding and reacting. A response is considered. A reaction is automatic. Most people spend their entire lives in reactive mode. Someone says something, they fire back. Someone disrespects them, they immediately defend. Someone questions their choices, they justify. It's exhausting, and it's completely unnecessary. Because the truth is, you don't owe anyone an explanation. You don't owe anyone a defense. You don't owe anyone access to your internal state. When you realize this, really internalize it, you become untouchable. Not in an arrogant way, in a grounded way. You stop being moved by things that used to destabilize you completely. Someone insults you. Interesting. You observe it. You don't absorb it. Someone tries to drag you into drama. You see the invitation. You decline. Someone misunderstands your intentions. That's their reality, not your emergency. This is the shift, from being controlled by external events to being anchored in your own center. And people notice. They can't quite put their finger on it, but something about you changes. You become harder to read, harder to manipulate, harder to predict. That unpredictability is power. Most people are open books. You know exactly how they'll react to any given situation because they've trained everyone around them with consistent patterns. Insult them, they get defensive. Challenge them, they get argumentative. Ignore them, they get needy. When you break that pattern, when you stop being predictable, you reclaim something valuable. Mystery, autonomy, self-possession. People don't know what to do with someone who doesn't react according to script. It unsettles them. And in that unsettlement, you gain leverage. Not because you're playing games, but because you've stopped playing theirs. There's a concept in martial arts. It's about using your opponent's energy against them. You don't meet force with force. You redirect it. You step aside and let their momentum carry them past you. Non-reaction works the same way. When someone comes at you with aggression, with manipulation, with passive aggression, they're expending energy. They're investing in getting a response. If you give them nothing, all that energy has nowhere to go. It dissipates. Or worse for them, it reflects back. They're left sitting with their own toxicity, their own negativity, their own need for validation. And you? You're untouched. This is especially powerful in professional settings. The coworker who tries to undermine you in meetings. The boss who uses intimidation as a management style. The client who thinks they can bully you into compliance. The moment you stop reacting emotionally, you stop being a viable target. Because what they're really after isn't compliance. It's emotional leverage. They want to see you rattled, uncertain, defensive. When you deny them that satisfaction, the entire power structure shifts. You're no longer someone who can be pushed around. You're someone who operates from a different level entirely. And here's the paradox. The less you react, the more respect you command. Not from everyone. Some people will be frustrated by your non-reaction. They'll escalate, trying to get that response they're used to. Let them. Their escalation only exposes them. It reveals the game they're playing. And to everyone watching, it becomes obvious who's in control. It's never the person yelling. It's never the person explaining desperately. It's never the person who can't let it go. It's the person who can sit in silence while chaos swirls around them. That's the person everyone remembers. That's the person who wins. But this requires something difficult. It requires you to get comfortable with being misunderstood. Most people can't handle that. They need everyone to understand their intentions, their reasoning, their perspective. That need is a weakness, and people will exploit it. They'll misrepresent you, knowing you'll rush to correct the record. They'll make assumptions, knowing you'll exhaust yourself explaining. They'll create narratives, knowing you'll react to defend yourself. Every reaction is a leak in your power. When you stop needing to be understood, when you stop needing to be seen accurately by everyone, you become free. Free from manipulation. Free from the exhausting cycle of defending and explaining and justifying. You simply exist. You do what you do. You know what you know. And what other people think becomes background noise. This is uncomfortable at first. Your conditioning will fight it. You'll feel the urge to speak up, to set things straight, to make sure people know the truth. Sit with that urge. Observe it. Don't act on it. Because that urge isn't coming from strength. It's coming from insecurity. From the belief that your value is determined by other people's perceptions. It's not. Your value is intrinsic, fixed, not up for debate. Once you know that, really know that, other people's opinions lose their grip on you. And that's when you start winning. Not winning arguments, not winning approval. Winning in the only way that actually matters. Winning your own internal game, maintaining your peace, keeping your power. There's a reason the most powerful people you know don't argue much, don't explain much, don't react to every provocation. They figured out what most people never learn. Engagement is optional. You don't have to participate in every conflict you're invited to. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to defend yourself against every accusation thrown your way. Most of the time, silence does more for your reputation than any defense ever could. Because here's what happens when you don't react. People start second-guessing themselves. They wonder why you're not bothered. They question whether their attack landed. They begin to doubt the narrative they created. Your silence creates space for their own consciousness to kick in. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, that's enough for them to realize they were wrong, to see their own behavior clearly. You didn't have to say a word. Your non-reaction did the work. This is particularly effective with people who thrive on drama. They need the back and forth. They need the emotional intensity. They need the conflict to feel alive. When you refuse to engage, you starve the dynamic. You remove yourself as a source of that drug they're addicted to. Initially, they'll be confused, then frustrated. Then they'll move on to someone else who will give them what you won't. And you'll be free. Free from the cycle. Free from the exhaustion. Free from the constant need to manage other people's perceptions and emotions. That freedom is worth more than winning any individual argument. But let's be clear about something. Non-reaction is not the same as avoidance. Avoidance is running from conflict because you're afraid. Non-reaction is staying present in conflict without being consumed by it. Avoidance is weakness pretending to be strength. Non-reaction is actual strength with nothing to prove. You can be in the room, fully aware of the tension, fully aware of the provocation, and still choose not to react. That's different from leaving the room or pretending the conflict doesn't exist. It's acknowledging it, assessing it, and deciding it doesn't warrant your emotional investment. This distinction matters because people will try to weaponize your non-reaction. They'll call you cold, unfeeling, avoidant. Let them. Their interpretation of your boundaries is not your concern. You're not being cold. You're being selective with your energy. You're refusing to be dragged into every emotional storm that comes your way. That's not a character flaw. That's emotional intelligence. And over time, you'll notice something. The people who respect boundaries, who operate from a place of maturity, they'll appreciate your non-reactivity. They'll see it as a sign of stability, reliability, emotional regulation. The people who are put off by it, who need you to be reactive to feel validated, they were never going to be healthy connections anyway. Your non-reaction becomes a filter. It sorts people naturally. The ones who stay are the ones worth keeping. The ones who leave were only there for the drama. This is how you build a life of peace, not by controlling external circumstances, but by controlling your internal responses. You can't control what people say about you, what they think about you, how they choose to interpret your actions. But you can control whether you let those things destabilize you. And that control, that ability to remain unmoved, is the most valuable skill you can develop. Because here's the reality. Life will always provide opportunities to react. People will always test you. Situations will always arise that could pull you out of your center. The question is not whether those things will happen. The question is whether you'll give them power. Every time you choose not to react, you're making a statement. Not to them, to yourself. You're saying, I am not controlled by external events. I am anchored in something deeper. That anchoring is what separates people who are constantly buffeted by life from people who move through life with intention and grace. It's not that nothing bothers them. It's that they've trained themselves not to be ruled by what bothers them. There's a difference. You'll still feel anger, frustration, hurt. Those are human emotions. But you won't be compelled to act on them immediately. You'll have space between stimulus and response. And in that space, you'll find your power. Most people live with no space. Something happens, they react. Someone speaks, they respond. An emotion arises, they act on it. It's mechanical, predictable, controllable from the outside. When you create space, when you pause before reacting, you become less controllable, less predictable, more sovereign, and sovereignty is threatening to people who are used to controlling others through emotional manipulation. They'll try harder at first. They'll escalate their tactics. They'll push your buttons more aggressively. This is the test. If you react now, you confirm that they just needed to try harder, that the old tactics still work, they just needed more force. If you maintain your non-reaction, you break the pattern completely. And breaking that pattern is how you reclaim your life. Think about how much energy you've wasted over the years, How many hours spent replaying arguments? How many nights lost to rumination over something someone said? How many days ruined because you let someone else's opinion penetrate your peace? All of that energy could have been saved, redirected toward things that actually matter: your goals, your growth, your peace of mind. But you gave it away because you didn't know you had a choice. Now you know. Every reaction is a choice. Every engagement is optional. Every emotional investment is yours to make or withhold. This isn't about becoming robotic or emotionless. It's about becoming intentional. You feel everything. You just don't act on everything. You process internally instead of performing externally. And that internal processing makes you sharper, clearer, more in tune with what actually matters versus what just feels urgent in the moment. Most urgency is manufactured. Most conflict is optional. Most drama is chosen. When you stop choosing it, when you stop participating in it, your life becomes remarkably simple. Not easy. Simple because you're no longer juggling multiple narratives, defending multiple fronts, managing multiple people's emotional states. You're just living, focused, clear, unbothered. And people will notice. They'll ask what changed. They'll want to know your secret. The secret is simple. You stopped playing the game. You stopped reacting to prove you weren't affected. You stopped explaining to prove you weren't wrong. You stopped defending to prove you weren't weak. You just existed in your truth, unbothered by people's interpretations of it. And in that existence, you found something most people spend their entire lives searching for: peace, power, presence. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. The kind that doesn't need validation. The kind that simply is. That's what's available to you when you stop reacting. Not in some distant future. Right now. The next time someone tries to bait you, you have a choice. You can take the bait like you always have. Defend, explain, argue, prove. Or you can simply observe, acknowledge internally, and choose to remain unmoved. That choice will feel uncomfortable. Your conditioning will scream at you to engage. Don't. Sit in the discomfort. Let the urge pass. Watch what happens. Watch how the other person's energy has nowhere to go. Watch how the conflict deflates without your participation. Watch how you walk away completely intact, having lost nothing. That's the moment you'll understand. The moment you'll realize you've been giving away power your entire life, and you can simply stop. Just stop. Stop reacting. Stop engaging. Stop letting other people's chaos determine your emotional state. And in that stopping, you'll find a stillness you didn't know existed. A quiet confidence that doesn't need to defend itself. A power that doesn't need to announce itself. A victory that doesn't need anyone else to acknowledge it. Because you'll know. You'll know you won the only game worth winning. The one against yourself. The one for control of your own mind. The one for sovereignty over your own emotional state. And once you win that game, everything else becomes noise. Manageable noise. Background noise. Noise that no longer has the power to move you. You become the calm in any storm. Not because the storm doesn't exist, but because you've learned not to become it. And that makes all the difference. That's where real power lives. Not in dominance over others, in mastery over yourself, not in controlling external outcomes, in controlling your internal responses, not in winning arguments, in refusing to participate in battles that don't serve you. This is what they don't teach you. What you have to learn through trial and error, through pain and reflection, through finally getting tired of your own patterns. Some people never learn it. They spend their whole lives reactive, controlled, manipulated by anyone who knows which buttons to push. You don't have to be one of them. You can choose differently, starting now. When you stop reacting, you start winning, not because you've defeated anyone else, because you finally stopped defeating yourself.